Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. It's brought to you by Worth Wealth Management. Our guest today has so many things to talk about, but we want to focus on the main thing of the program today, and that's some exciting news from the Board of Regents, and it's a formal affiliation between Fort Hays State, Northwest Tech, and North Central Kansas Technical College, something that's really cool. Our guest is Dr. Tisa Mason, president of Fort Hays State University. Tisa, welcome to our program.
Thank you. As always, it's great to be with you and having this great conversation. It is exciting for all three of our institutions.
You know, one of the things that happens, and had a chance to be on the university campus yesterday, it doesn't quite feel like spring yet. I'm waiting for one of those really nice days where it's sunny and nice and you walk through the campus and everything's blooming and the trees are getting leaves, all that. It's not there yet, but it is an exciting time on campus as you head into spring.
And in a blink, we'll be holding commencement ceremonies. It's crazy how fast time goes by.
I am with you on that, Dr. Mason. So let's talk about this affiliation agreement, because there's a couple of things about this that I think I'll say the average citizen may not fully understand. But what's the most important thing that we should understand about the affiliation between Fort Hays State University, Northwest Kansas Tech, and NCK Tech?
I think first of all is the why. And the why we are doing this is to enhance our shared commitment to serving rural students, businesses, industries, and communities. And we all have a strong commitment to rural communities. And we know from the statistics that it's getting tough in rural communities. And although, as my friend Ben would say, this may not be the silver bullet to fix everything, our working together to keep students engaged with local businesses and invested in their communities can make a difference. And we're committed to do that collectively.
I was reading your statement that you had, and bear with me, I'm just going to read a little bit of this because it really kind of goes into the depth of what this is. And it talks, and this is from your office, but the future of rural Kansas stands at a crossroads. Decades of declining and aging populations have stripped our communities of the critical human capital that fuels and sustains economic prosperity. Those are big words, but they are very true when you look across Northwest Kansas. So how will this plan help that?
So one of the really exciting things that has already happened is businesses are calling us and say, we want to partner with you. And so we're excited about that. Even some businesses that we both or all three of us have worked with us in different things, we think we can go deeper together. For example, Hess Industries often has summer internships for some of the students working through the tech schools, and asked if we could house them during the summer on campus. And of course, the answer was yes. That's just a little thing. For our students, we think this is going to be great. It's going to give them more program opportunities. It's going to hopefully give them more internship opportunities. For our people in our communities, more professional development opportunities. For our businesses, there's just a list of how we can enhance internships, apprenticeships, and then keep the students in our communities so that they will continue to move there, marry, have families, lead the PTA and the Kiwanis and the Rotary, and help our communities continue to grow and become even more vibrant.
Well, when you see that, and it doesn't happen in a minute, just like some of the decline hasn't happened in a minute. It just takes time. And so being able to build that up, not only day after day, but year after year, to get what you say, build that community back into many of our towns in Western Kansas. One of the side parts, though, is it does give students a much broader scope. What will the students see?
So we're going to be stepping into this. And so I think it's really important that you said this isn't going to happen overnight. First, even the approval process is a long process. But after that, we're going to start off slowly by taking a couple of academic areas and proving concept, and then learning best practices and adding more and adding more. But we're going to have a rollout, very intentional process. The groups that will come together under the academic as well as the administrative functions, but for the academic will include our faculty who are right at the center of everything, and then business partners so that we create new pathways for students and businesses together, not in isolation, as well with community leaders. So I think that's going to be really important. One of the things that we know is that, especially looking at the Wichita Tech and Wichita State model, is that the pathways from the tech degrees into the university are continuing to be more and more robust, and more students are going on in our education. Even when the 3 presidents went around to all of our campuses and talked to people, when the students were there, one of us might say, how many of you, after you get your degree, especially at the tech colleges, want to go on and start your own business in whatever you're in? And a lot of them would raise their hands. Well, to be able to do that, we have not only more degree pathways for them, but also access to the Small Development Center, the Cybersecurity Institute, and all kinds of wraparound services with even our entrepreneurial adventures that we have in contests. We know sometimes students, as Ben and Eric might say, we have students that are really good at wires and pliers, and they're so important to our communities, right? Try to hire a plumber right now, right? Or an electrician. And so sometimes people start in a university pathway and they might struggle a little, or they may just find out that they do really well, but they're interested in more hands-on. And so they might want to go over to a tech college and then come back. The tech colleges might interact a little bit. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of different pathways that students can go on, build stackable credentials, and that our offerings collectively are going to expand because we're going to be thinking differently about cooperation instead of competition, and cooperation based on strengthening our communities. Because at the end of the day, if students aren't benefiting, if businesses aren't getting our students, and if communities aren't growing, then regardless of what our enrollments are, which everybody wants to point to, we have failed in this initiative, because our initiative isn't about the institutions. The initiatives are about students, businesses, and communities.
Well, how unique is this? Because in the state of Kansas, but maybe even in the region, how unique is it to be able to combine the efforts of all 3 types of schools?
There's more and more of this going on in higher education in general. And certainly we have the Wichita Tech, Wichita State model, and Washburn. But what I think is a little bit more unique in this is that we're talking about rural communities, and that's very different than an urban environment. And I think it's even more difficult and more challenging in a rural environment. So I think higher ed, both from a nimble, innovative perspective to also a survival perspective, is looking more broadly at partnerships, collaborations, and new ways of doing business. And, you know, that's part of our DNA, is being innovative, whether it was early to online or really thinking differently about rural communities and how we can serve Western Kansas.
You know, innovative does take a lot of energy and a lot of time. How long have you been working on this project?
Over a year.
And it's not complete yet, is it?
Oh, it is in its initial launch steps, you know, so, but we sat together and we spent a lot of time as the 3 presidents, really getting clear on why in our metrics. And again, students, businesses, and communities, not institutions. And that's hard when funding mechanisms and public sometimes hold you accountable to different metrics, but we know to move the rural agenda, it's not going to be on the institutions. The output has to be all about students, businesses, and communities.
And legislature also has to weigh in on this, correct?
Yes. And so we first went through our 3 boards. So the board at Northwest, the board at North Central, and then the Kansas Board of Regents, and we got unanimous votes. Then we had to go to the legislature. So we started in the House. We got a unanimous vote by House Appropriations. It went to the floor and we got 1 no vote. And, we know some legislators who have some community colleges felt like they needed to vote no. So far, 1 no vote. Then it went over to the Senate and it had a unanimous vote in Senate Ways and Means. And now we're waiting for it to get above the line to get on their agenda. That could happen any day. And then it goes to the governor. Then we start the Higher Learning Commission accreditation process.
So there's a lot that goes into it, but trying to, having that, I don't know if you call that a landslide, but everybody, with exception of 1 no vote, obviously sees the value of this. What areas academics are you going to focus on first?
So we've initially identified, when you think about rural Kansas, right? Nursing, construction, and allied health and is along with the nursing, and also ag. We are also in the beginning of launching our steering committee. Our steering committee includes the vice presidents of academic affairs of all 3 institutions, the CFOs, and a couple other folks. And so they will now take our charge and our vision and start mapping out the strategies and the first pilot. So they have the right, with our blessing, to say, okay, we're going to start with, I think they're going to start with nursing, but they will order those. They may shuffle them around, but that was our first collective vision, was ag, construction, and nursing.
Well, when you talk about innovation, it's going to take that. You mentioned Wichita State has a technical program, and Washburn does as well, that goes along with the university there. But mileage is going to come into play here, because you go from really the campus in Beloit to the campus in Goodland. How will that work?
We are figuring that out. We also have really great opportunities for our faculty and staff, in terms of learning opportunities for them, for connecting with one another. I know when I was up at the town hall meeting in Goodland, the chief academic officer said, hey, how can we create pathways for your students to graduate and come teach on our campus? I thought that was a great question. So I think that there's just so many opportunities, and we would love the opportunity to go out and, talk to all the civic groups and have more town hall meetings. And really, one of the challenges I feel like we're facing is that because we've had businesses continuing to contact us, which is exciting, but we're not there yet. So we need to figure out how we keep the interest high and start with some baby steps without losing people because of the methodical steps we need to take to get through to be able to implement.
So I want to take a quick break here, Dr. Mason, and come back and talk about, there's a couple of things. You mentioned some challenges. One of the things is working on names, how we're going to identify this so that we can market it, and then what will actually happen on campuses when it'll start. So I'll be back with President Tisa Mason of Fort Hays State University, talking about the great new affiliation between Fort Hays State, Northwest Tech, and North Central Kansas Technical College. Back after this.
The most successful investors are those that can keep their emotions in check and take a longer-term view at what portfolios will be worth 3 to 5 years down the road. I'd say that's the most important in determining what investor outcomes are. Market corrections will continue in the future. We've seen many of them over the years, only to see equity prices rise higher, and that'll be the case in the future.
Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, and this is really a Forward Ever thinking program. Dr. Mason talked about initiatives and ways to solve the bigger challenges that we have here in Northwest Kansas. Dr. Mason, we went into the break talking about possibility and some challenges, but one of those is, how do we name this thing? What do people call this? Or does everybody keep their same name and we move forward kind of as an affiliated group?
So some of that is in the framework, especially with the legislation. So the process that's going through the legislature right now, we have kind of the formal names everybody will take on Fort Hays State. So I think in the document, it might say Fort Hays State University dash Northwest Tech. The joke has been, you can't fit those names on a t-shirt. So once we go through a formal process, and so after the legislature, we will go through the Higher Learning Commission, and then we will go back to all of our boards to actually ratify all of the decisions that have been made. Part of that will also be talking about the names again. So we do know it'll be Fort Hays State. There still will be identification with the technical colleges. That's going to be important. They will become black and gold. Northwest Tech will keep their athletics. So that was something that was important. But we need some brains of the marketing to kind of think of something a little shorter and a little bit more fun to put on a t-shirt.
Otherwise, it wraps all the way around a t-shirt if you do this right, or a hat or cap, whatever.
Yeah.
One thing I want to point out, when you talk about forward ever thinking, you have to have people that are willing to work together. And it appears to me like you and the leaders of both the other schools have done a great job of working together to make this thing really move forward.
Yeah, part of the challenge, I think, right now is with the excitement of the rolling out is just the pace. And the presidents have been talking about this for like a year. And so we are very comfortable. And so sometimes as we are rolling out to some of our staff that we are delegating to make some of these decisions, because they have to be made by the experts at the ground level who know their areas. There's a little deer in the headlight look because we all have so much going on already. But what I've been really pleased with is the commitment to say, okay, we can do this. We can figure this out. We get the why. We know why this is important, and we're gonna step through it, and we're gonna make this better.
Eric Burks, who's the president of North Central Kansas Technical College, and Ben Shears, who's with Northwest Kansas Tech, had a chance to really talk to both of them. They're as excited as you are about this, which I think only brings that excitement even to a greater level, that this can work and can be a great thing for the students. Will you start next fall?
So I think that we will see the year after. I'm trying to remember the timeline in my head, because we have to get through, again, the legislation process, then we have to get through the higher learning process. And again, when we move forward, we'll be moving forward with a couple of programs. But there are things, I wouldn't be surprised if President Burks talked a little bit about our long-standing Gateway program. So there are things that we can do in our Gateway program that we've had with the Hays campus of NCK Tech. Has allowed their students, they pay their student service fee. They can go to our games, live in our residence halls, which they have, use all of our student services from tutoring to career services, and our library if they're in the Hays area. And that has been a great partnership. And it was very efficient because NCK Tech didn't have to invest in all of those student services for their Hays campus students. So those students are already feeling and being involved on campus. But this is going to be different. It's not just a signed agreement of how we're going to work together. It's about merging cultures and creating new pathways. And again, in doing it more proactively with businesses, and how we map academics, processes, and credentials to the workforce, to some of those earn and learn opportunities. And I think we all do that now, but how do we do it better and more intentionally and doing it together? in partnership with the businesses.
I know you're looking for feedback. How do people that are out there, maybe somebody with a business, an idea how this fits in, how do they reach out to you or President Burke, President Scheer, the other universities to really get that information and feedback back to you guys?
Yeah, the simplest way is if you go to any of our websites, so you go to Fort Hays, our website, we have an affiliation page. It's got all of our documents, and there's also a leave behind. If you have a question, if you have an idea, we certainly have been contacted directly via email and phone calls by businesses. President Shears might have told you a little bit about a business that was in Colorado that's now coming, and we have the opportunity of working together to supply that business with employees, as opposed to the business trying to either map it out or not even know how to get the university to participate in the Goodland area. So the website's the easiest. Our information's on the website as well. So if somebody really wants to have a conversation and not just leave a note, but if it's quick for them to leave a note, we will get back to you. We're excited about this.
Well, that's an easy way to go to do that website, click on the affiliation part, and then get that feedback. Or if you have interest or want to give those suggestions, do that. Dr. Mason, before we leave, you're down there at Fort Hays State University, so many things happening. Do you have a 60-second overview of what's happening at the university, or does that take 60 minutes?
How about 60 days? Yeah,
it's busy. You guys are doing so much back there that really the whole Northwest Kansas, proud of what goes on, whether it be in the athletic side of things or whether it be in education, scholarships, et cetera. What's the latest from the campus?
So Saturday, we're having a fabulous dedication of the Flea Hardy family softball field. So come out and see our softball team play and help us thank the Flea Hardys for their generosity. From a big picture standpoint, the affiliation initiative has taken a lot of time and thought, but we have two other really key elements that are moving forward, and that is our digital master plan, which will supplement our campus master plan about how we're being forward thinking in online and on campus technologies to enhance student engagement and improve teaching and learning. Some really cool things going on there. And we also are doing a lot more in preparing for the future of professional post-higher ed education with executive coaching and credentialed certificates once you're in the employment. We're excited about the KBA relationship this year as well with our banking institute. The Small Business Development Center is up and running as it has been for many, many, many years and making a huge impact. Cybersecurity Institute, our students are out there right now doing those internships, helping businesses, small and medium-sized businesses, again, looking at that rural community to strengthen their security posture. There's just amazing things. And really importantly, in May, we get commencement again to celebrate our students who've done it successfully and are launching into their careers. And hopefully many of them will be in our rural communities.
Well, that's the goal of making and having Fort Hays State and this project to keep people here to help grow what we do. And, you know, I see, and you may see some of this as well, people that have been moving back that are saying, you know, I don't need to be in a big city. I want to be in a place where I can raise my kids, have good schools, Fort Hays State being one of those. And it's great to see that happen. I think what you're doing at the university is only going to add to that. So, Dr. Mason, thanks for all your work on this project.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate the shout out as always.
Our guest today has been Fort Hays State President Dr. Tisa Mason, talking about some of the new things looking forward and forward thinking going on at the university and in cooperation with the VOTEC schools around the state, or at least in Northwest Kansas. Thanks for listening to our program. It's brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.